Today we're going to talk about a quick troubleshooting technique of figuring out how come an engine doesn't start. So we're going to go over a quick spark test, compression test, and how to do a cylinder leak down test. Just some basic tests. When I get an engine in that doesn't start, I like to do a quick test first. That's remove the spark plug wire, hook the spark tester up to it, and before I actually hit the key to do this test, I'm going to do one other thing. An engine needs three basic items to run: air, fuel, and spark. So I'm going to check two of them right now, and that's going to be spark and fuel. So if we want to zoom in on the spark tester here while I crank this engine over, I'm going to apply full choke, full throttle, and I'm going to crank this thing for 3 to 5 seconds. Once that I've seen that I've had good spark, I want to try and quickly remove the spark plug to see if the spark plug is getting wet with fuel. That way it's going to tell me, yes, I have spark. If my spark plug is wet, which this is, I know I'm getting fuel. You're going to want to test that, smell that. Does it smell like good fuel? If need be, you got to see if the fuel that is in this tank is good. So from that point next, I'm going to grab my my compression tester. I always leave my spark tester hooked up. That way this spark plug lead isn't hanging over the engine, randomly giving loose spark to areas you don't want it. This one, the spark plug wire naturally wants to lend itself to lay right over top of the fuel tank. That could be a dangerous aspect. Don't forget safety glasses. If you don't have safety glasses, make sure any of these tests you're doing, you're using the appropriate personal protective equipment. So next is going to be basic compression tester. A lot of people say it's not good when doing a compression test on an air-cooled engine because of the compression release camshaft. That is true. The compression test is not accurate unless you have an engine with no compression release. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this thing about 3 to 5 bumps of the needle. I want to make sure my choke is off, my throttle is open. I got to get as much air into this engine as I can because that is what we're compressing. You notice on this engine, I was below 90 PSI and suddenly I jumped up to almost 120. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to give it 2 bumps. I'm going to stop. There I'm down around 60. I'm going to let this thing crank for a few more seconds. The reason I'm going to do that, I have a strong enough battery and a strong enough starter and no resistance on the crankshaft. I'll actually be able to get the compression release mechanism to kick out and really bump up the compression reading. There I'm up over 150 PSI. So engines with no compression release, that's what I want. I have a camshaft, a couple of them, and I'll show you the difference between a camshaft with compression release. And all we're doing is we're lifting the exhaust valves on the back side during the compression stroke, relieving that compression ever so slightly. Other engines have no compression release mechanisms. So you really have to understand what style engine you're dealing with. With no compression release, like on our Kohler Command twin cylinder engines, we're looking for 150 to 180 PSI minimum. So compression tests can be very good and very useful. Now, if we ended up with a low compression reading, we know we have an engine with no compression release, and we're down around the 50, 60 PSI. Now we got to dig a little bit deeper and we've got to do a cylinder leak down test to determine where that pressure is going.